Why is a son ungrateful and disrespectful to his mother? Carl Jung. A mother sacrifices everything for her son. She feeds him, clothes him, stays up nights when he's sick, works multiple jobs to give him opportunities she never had. Then one day he looks at her with cold eyes and says, "You ruined my life." How does love turn to hatred? How does gratitude become cruelty? Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, spent decades unraveling this dark mystery of human relationships. What he discovered will shock you, because it might explain the most painful relationship in your own life. Stay with me as we dive deep into Jung's revolutionary insights. By the end, you'll understand not just why sons can become ungrateful, but how to heal these wounded relationships. Whether you're the mother, the son, or someone caught in between. Section 1, The Shadow Behind Love. Before we begin, I want you to think about your own relationship with your mother. Close your eyes for a moment. What's the first emotion that comes up? Love? Guilt? Anger? Frustration? Whatever it is, hold on to that feeling. We're going to explore why it exists. The mother complex. Jung's groundbreaking discovery. Carl Jung identified something he called the mother complex, and it's not what you think. This isn't just about loving your mother too much or too little. It's about the psychological prison that forms when a son's identity becomes entangled with his mother's emotional needs. Jung himself struggled with this. His mother, Emily, was emotionally unstable, claiming to see ghosts and spirits. Young Carl felt responsible for her mental state. He later wrote, "My mother's psychological problems became the lens through which I first saw the world." Sound familiar? Comment below if you've ever felt responsible for your parents' happiness. You're not alone. The invisible chains. Here's what Jung discovered. When a mother unconsciously uses her son to meet her emotional needs, for validation, for purpose, for healing her own childhood wounds, she creates what psychologists call emotional incest, not physical but psychological. The son becomes her emotional husband, her therapist, her reason for living. And here's the cruel irony. The more she needs him, the more he'll eventually need to reject her to become his own person. If this is hitting close to home, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these life-changing insights. Section 2, The Great Mother Archetype. To understand why sons become ungrateful, Jung said we must first understand the power of the mother archetype. One of the most powerful forces in the human psyche. The devouring mother versus the nurturing mother. Jung identified two faces of the mother archetype. The first is the nurturing mother, life-giving, protective, unconditionally loving. Think of the Virgin Mary or the Earth Goddess who provides for all. But there's a shadow side, the devouring mother. She loves by consuming. She protects by controlling. She nurtures by never letting go. Greek mythology knew her as Medea, who killed her own children rather than lose them to their father. Real-life story, Michael's prison. Let me tell you about Michael, not his real name, but his story is real. Michael's mother, Sarah, was widowed when he was 12. She poured all her love, all her dreams, all her unfulfilled ambitions onto her son. She attended every school event, helped with every homework assignment, made every decision for him. When Michael got accepted to college across the country, Sarah cried for 3 days. "How can you abandon me after everything I've done for you?" she asked. Michael stayed home. He got a local job, lived in the basement, and slowly began to hate the woman he once adored. By 30, he could barely look at her without feeling rage he couldn't explain. Jung would say Sarah wasn't evil, she was unconscious. She was living out the devouring mother archetype without realizing it. The psychological mechanism. Here's the psychology. When a mother can't separate her identity from her son's achievements, emotions, and choices, she unconsciously prevents his psychological birth. He remains her eternal child, never becoming a man. The son's ingratitude isn't cruelty, it's a desperate survival mechanism. His psyche knows that to become himself, he must reject her version of who she wants him to be. Section 3, The Hero's Journey Gone Wrong. Jung understood that every man must take what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, a psychological adventure from boyhood to manhood. But what happens when the mother becomes both the dragon to slay and the princess to rescue? The mama's boy trap. Society mocks mama's boys, but Jung saw something deeper. These aren't weak men. They're men trapped in a psychological maze with no clear exit. The mama's boy knows something is wrong. He feels suffocated, controlled, infantilized. But he also feels guilty for these feelings because she loves me so much. And she sacrificed everything for me. Case study: the successful son who can't be happy. Consider James, again name changed. Top of his law class, successful practice, beautiful family. But he calls his mother 3 times a day. He asked her permission for major decisions at age 40. His wife feels like she's married to a little boy. James isn't grateful for his success, he's resentful. Because none of it feels like his own achievement. He's living his mother's dream, not his own. And part of him knows it. How many of you know someone like James? Or maybe you are James. The comments are a safe space. Share your story. The rebellion that looks like hatred. Jung observed that sons often go through what looks like a cruel rejection phase. They become cold, distant, sometimes even cruel to their mothers. Society sees this as ingratitude. Jung saw it as psychological necessity. The son must reject the mother's version of reality to discover his own. It's like a psychological adolescence that sometimes happens at 30, 40, even 50 years old. But here's the tragedy. Neither the mother nor the son understands what's happening. She feels abandoned and betrayed. He feels guilty and angry. Both are in pain and neither knows why. Section 4. The father's missing piece. Jung discovered something crucial. The mother-son dynamic doesn't exist in isolation. There's usually a missing or inadequate father, figure that creates the perfect storm for this psychological drama. When fathers fail their sons, Jung wrote extensively about the importance of the father in helping the son separate from the mother. The father is supposed to be the bridge between the mother's world and the wider world of men and society. But what happens when the father is absent, emotionally distant, or weak? The mother becomes both parents, and the son never learns how to individuate, how to become his own person, the emotional husband syndrome. Let me paint a picture for you. Dad works 70 hours a week, comes home exhausted, zones out in front of the TV. Mom turns to her son for emotional connection, intellectual stimulation, companionship. She shares adult problems with him, asks his opinion on grown-up matters, treats him like her little partner. The son feels special, chosen, important. But he's also carrying emotional weight no child should carry. Years later, when he tries to date or marry, no woman can compete with the intensity of that original bond. His mother set the bar impossibly high and impossibly unhealthy. The absent father's legacy. Jung observed that sons with absent fathers often become hyper-responsible for their mother's emotional well-being. They become the man of the house at 8, 10, 12 years old. This creates what Jung called a false maturity. They seem wise and responsible on the outside, but emotionally they remain children trying to take care of an adult. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Jung's psychology, subscribe and ring that bell. We're just getting to the most important part: how to heal these patterns. Section 5. The shadow of resentment. Now we come to the heart of darkness in Jung's analysis: why love transforms into what looks like hatred, why gratitude becomes resentment. The psychological double bind. Jung identified what Gregory Bateson would later call a double bind. The son is simultaneously told, "I only want you to be happy, and if you leave me, you'll break my heart." He's taught that his mother's love is unconditional, but he experiences it as highly conditional. Conditional on him remaining her little boy, on meeting her emotional needs, on choosing her over everyone else. Real story: the wedding that changed everything. David was 28 when he got engaged to Lisa. His mother, Patricia, had been his best friend, confidant, and biggest supporter his whole life. But when he announced his engagement, something shifted. Patricia became critical of Lisa. found fault with every wedding decision, made passive-aggressive comments about losing her son. At the wedding, she wore a black dress and cried through the entire ceremony. David felt a rage he'd never experienced before. This woman who claimed to love him more than anyone was trying to sabotage the happiest day of his life. The scales fell from his eyes, and he saw the relationship for what it really was: conditional, controlling, suffocating, the moment of awakening. Jung called these moments of awakening the recognition of the shadow. The son suddenly sees that what he thought was pure love contained elements of possession, control, and emotional manipulation. It's not that the mother is evil. She genuinely believes she's acting out of love, but her unconscious needs are driving her behavior. And the son finally recognizes the prison he's been living in, why gratitude becomes impossible. Here's Jung's crucial insight. You can't be genuinely grateful for a gift that comes with strings attached. If your mother's love requires you to remain her emotional support system, then it's not really a gift, it's a transaction. The son's ingratitude is actually psychological, health trying to assert itself. He's refusing to be grateful for his own imprisonment. Section 6, the path to healing. But Jung wasn't just about identifying problems, he was about healing them. The good news is that these patterns can be transformed. These relationships can be healed. Step 1, conscious recognition. The first step is what Jung called making the unconscious conscious. Both the mother and the son need to recognize the unhealthy patterns without blame or shame. For the mother, this means acknowledging that she may have used her son to meet her own emotional needs. For the son, it means understanding that his anger isn't about ingratitude, it's about the need for psychological freedom. Step 2, the mother's work. Jung emphasized that mothers caught in this pattern need to develop what he called their own individual life. She needs friends, hobbies, purpose, and identity beyond being someone's mother. This isn't selfish. It's the greatest gift she can give her son. When she stops needing him to complete her, he's free to love her by choice rather than obligation. Case study: Margaret's transformation. Remember, understanding these patterns isn't about blame. It's about freedom. Freedom to love authentically, to choose consciously, and to heal the wounds that have been passed down through generations. Until next time, keep exploring the depths of your own psyche. Jung would be proud